Hello everyone, welcome to ChessVisor, your wise choice to improve chess. In today's video, I'm going to show you a very interesting game played between Andrey Esipenko and Gukesh D. And this game was played in Turkish chess league being played at Turkey, and this was round number 2. So before we begin this video, if you are watching this channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. So here, if I have to talk about Andrey Esipenko, he's a very strong grandmaster from Russia, and recently, or 5 to 6 months back, he defeated Magnus Carlsen in a classical time format. So such a strong grandmaster is Andrey Esipenko. So Gugesh, we don't have to introduce him because in the recent days he is in the spotlight because his performance is like anything. And for India team too, he gave a tremendous performance that brought bronze to the home country India. And not only that, he himself got the gold medal for the individual board number 1. So with that, we will start the game. So I'm just looking at the game from the black's perspective, that is Gukesh perspective. So here Andrey Esipenko opens the game with 1 d4. For this, Gukesh replies with the move universal move, that is knight f6. So we have pawn to c4 gaining more space, e6, knight f3 avoiding any Nimzo Indian line. So because we cannot play knight c3, that will allow bishop b4. So he goes knight f3, that's called anti Nimzo Indian. So d5 striking in the center immediately. We have g3, bishop b4 check, bishop d2 blocking the check, and we have this popular move now, a5. So bishop to g2, we have castles by Gukesh, queen c1, forming this battery thing. Maybe I don't know the scope of the bishop on this diagonal. Let's see what happens in the game. So bishop e7, retreating the bishop back to e7 or the classical square. So we have castles on the king side by Andrey Esipenko. So pawn to c6, consolidating anything in the center, especially the d5 point. So we have rook to d1. This rook is simply x-rays the queen, and it is wise to keep the queen away from this line immediately. That's what every grandmaster will do. But here Gukesh plays the move knight bd7 because at the time there is no problem, but the problem may rise. So bishop f4, so taking away c7, and we have knight h5 immediately attacking the bishop. So we have bishop g5, so the bishop has been exchanged now. So knight takes g5, and in this position Gukesh plays the move pawn to b5. It's a very aggressive choice, and instead of that he could have gone pawn to b6 also, or even sometimes there are other ideas in the position like queen e7, h6 sometimes, because to kick the knight away. So but in the game he plays the move b5. So what's the idea of b5? If white takes on either side of the board, because that resulting position or resulting structure will benefit black greatly, and that's why he closes the center by playing pawn to c5. And in this position, if you are thinking about pushing the pawn to e5, you are actually mistaken, because still the x-ray thing is going on. The white would push the e4 himself, and he will create problems in the center, and so that will not be pleasant for black. So here he goes queen e7, sensing this idea, and for this Esipenko plays e4 anyway. We have bishop a6. So idea is very simple. At some point of time he is going to play the move pawn to b4 to unleash the bishop. So we have bishop f3 attacking the knight, and here he plays the move knight hf6. The idea is very simple. In the position we have a backward pawn now, that is d4, but that's very difficult to attack that. For this, immediately he pushes the e5. All of a sudden, actually, it looks like white is going to help Gukesh. It's because I have marked this plan of retreating the knight to e8 and then to g7 and then to f5 to attack the d4. And by pushing the e5, actually it helps the knight to retreat to e8. And we have queen e3 here. And after this h6, kicking the knight back. After this move, and he plays the absolute best move in the position, that is pawn to g5, creating a escape square, or it's not an escape square, it's just paving the way for the knight by g5. So in this position he follows up with the move bishop to e2. So we have knight g7 as per the plan, and we have pawn to f4. Instead of that move, because it's very clear that the knight is coming to f5, and that will gain some time on the queen, and not only that, he is going to put pressure on this backward pawn, right? So to stop that idea, white could try this move, but it looks odd because The pawn is now isolated, but still it's a very good move for white. In case even if you push the move pawn to f5 here, no problem, white can simply put the pawn on f3 and defend everything, and there won't be any problem, and he could concentrate on the queen side development and bring the other piece into the game. But in the game he plays the other pawn, so that is pawn to f4. Now he tries to chip away the g5, but the problem is he can immediately attack the queen and gain some time, and for this he responds with the move queen to c1. The better choice would be to play the move queen f3, or even sometimes queen f2, sorry. So queen f2 to keep the queen on the king sides for attacking as well as for the defending purpose. But he plays the move queen c1. So because what's the problem with the queen c1? Even if you develop the knight, you are actually going, or you are need one more tempo to develop the queen to connect at the rooks. So that's the problem. So here he plays the move pawn f6, another interesting move to play in the position to open up the center or the king side. So we have e takes f6, and now we have queen f6 forming this little battery thing. And after f takes g5, in this position he plays a brilliant move in this position actually, Gukesh. So instead of reacting to this threat, he plays the counter threatening move, that is knight takes d4. In case if you are wondering about g takes f6, then we have knight takes e2 check, and after king g2 we have this position that's completely winning for black. So in all of these conditions, or in all of this position, I would like to highlight something here. So after knight takes d4, he plays the move bishop g4, and after knight f3 check, he exchanges the bishop to the knight. So queen takes f3. Let me stop here and throw some light on the current position, because how white black is better here. There are few things we can it's very clear for black why he is clearly better. The first and foremost thing is still the rooks are not connected for white, and the second one is the knight has to develop, the queen has to develop. That means two tempos are already they need two tempos for the development. And not only that, if you look at the pawn structure, or if you look at the board without the major and minor pieces, and these two pawns cannot be stopped by this king, so that means the ending is clearly winning for black. So what should be black strategy? That means he is going to force the right exchanges and go into a winning pawn end game. So let's see how the game progresses here. So in this position, after queen takes f3, he plays gh6, and here that's what actually I marked here. The passes will be stronger in going forward. So in this position, white is threatening to play the move queen to g5. So he addresses the move by rook f5, and not only that, he is not only that stopping queen g5, but this move allows him to double, or even forming the Alakain gun on the f5. So he plays the move rook e1. Instead of that, he could have gone rook f1, going for an ending, but still the pawn structure is going to benefit black. But in the game he played rook e1, that allows him to play the move e5. So after this move, he goes knight d2, gaining some time on the queen, but we have two undefended things on the board. So he goes queen h5, threatening the knight. So you cannot play the move knight f2 here, because it invites the sacrificial idea by the rook. So rook takes f2, king takes f2, we have queen h2 check, king e3, queen takes g3 check, and this king is not going to survive longer in the open position in the middle of the board. So going back in this position, he defends the knight with the king g2 move, and after rook a f8, actually in this position Andrey Esipenko simply resigns the game. It's because there is no good coordination between the pieces for white, and as I mentioned earlier, this pawn structure is greatly going to benefit black in the long run, as I clearly mentioned earlier. So considering all this, he simply resigns the game in this position. So game could have been continued with the moves like rook f1, queen d1, but all of these moves are going to simply we can simply capture the pawn here and wait for white's response. Basically white is going to resign at some point of time, but in the ending, or the pawn structure, I keep on telling about the pawn structure is because the pawn structure is going to benefit the black in the long run. So he's going to queen the pawns, so that's why he resigns the game. So I think Gukesh is unstoppable now. So let's see what he does in the third round. and what do you think about his performance in the last couple of months? Let me know your ideas, thoughts, suggestions in the comment section below. Please do like this video for Gukesh, and still, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel ChessVisor, please consider subscribing to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for the future videos. So as usual, this is ChessVisor, your wise choice to improve your chess.